Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 449th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today, we have, all the way from Transylvania, although he's in a different place right now, we have a dyslexic CEO who grew 481% last year. And this dude, you're in for a treat. I actually got his name right. He said, I'm one of the few that got it right. I don't know if I can do it again, but it's Robert Indries. I think I got it right. But cool guy, cool story, and you are going to learn a lot in this episode. I'm going to keep the intro and outro short. I got to bang out a few of these right now. I'm heading on a 25-day camping trip. I will have 6 of my 7 kids for the first 10 days. Then my son flies home, and then I'll have the 5 girls, my wife, and me for the remainder. I hope I make it back. If I didn't make it back, just take over, okay? And just say good things about me. But, yeah, we're looking forward to it. I'll actually be working a good bit of it. We're going to spend some time in the mountains, though, take some time off, ride some razors around the mountains up in Zion. Did that before a couple years ago. So, fun. But, you can do that when you own your own business, when you do things virtually, when you've mastered delegation and automation and inbound marketing and all those fun things. So if you need some help getting those kind of things dialed in and squared away, please hit me up. I have month-to-month. I have 90-day programs. You get the 30-day sales growth program. 30daysalesgrowth.com if you want, semi-private small group training. Every Monday we're on live, and I answer your questions, cover things in the workbook, cover things in the on-demand videos I've created. But let me help you help yourself. All right, it's what I'm kind of good at. I'm just saying. So you can, like I said, go to 30daysalesgrowth.com. You can go just to thesaleswhisperer.com, hit the Talk with Wes button if you want to talk about some private coaching options. As I've mentioned last couple of weeks now, I've got a fitness program. Not really a program. I've got an affiliation with a cool company out in Austin right now. And you can get their supplements, same things I'm taking. And this Alpha Brain, I am a fan. I've been taking this now for a couple of weeks. I think I mentioned it before, how I would, doing this intermittent fasting is really good. It helps me with my workouts, cut weight. My wife's been on it, doing it over a year. But when I do eat, I eat a lot and I crash. So I know I got to get that dialed in probably. But this Alpha Brain, I don't know. It's, there's no caffeine. I don't get jittery because I don't do energy drinks, things like that. So it's not that at all, but it's focus, it's memory, it's legit. But thesaleswhisperer.com/fitness. If you follow that link, it'll take you to their site. And any of their sales they've got going on, you get the same deals. And they pay me a little commission for sending them some business. But, check it out. I'm taking their protein bars. I'm taking their krill oil for my joints, old 50-year-old jiu-jitsu aching joints. But, this past week I trained 5 days, trained jiu-jitsu 5 days, weightlifting, rec bag lifting 1 day. I may still exercise tonight. I don't know. I was going to exercise earlier, but it's Sunday and I was a little sore, a little tired, so check it out. All right. thesaleswhisperer.com/fitness. I'd appreciate it. And now let's bring on our guest. Robert Indries, all the way from the UK. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
Thank you. Very, very well. Thanks so much. What about yourself?
It only took me 37 minutes to get your last name right, but as soon as I did, I hit record.
Yeah. Well, you are one of the very few that actually get it right. So kudos.
So you're in the UK, but you're from Transylvania. Is that right?
Correct. Born around 6 hours away from the castle.
Oh, very cool. So you've got an interesting history, and you've got an interesting company. I was checking you out, Wesrom.com. The whole reason I had you on because your company is named after me, right? You named it after Wes?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. I actually didn't realize until you said it, but yeah.
So, I want to get into kind of your background and how you got started, and then jump into how you're growing right now, because these are some crazy times that do not seem to be affecting you and your company very much. But you came, so a small farming town, grew up dyslexic, right? And did you not even know that until you were in your 20s?
No, I didn't know that something like that existed until my 20s. And I found out just because someone, told me. I was actually at a conference in Cluj, which again is in Transylvania, and we had a break, in between sessions, and I didn't know how. I think the speaker was talking about dyslexia or something like that at one point, but just randomly. And this guy made a note about it. And I said, I don't know what that is. And so he just looked it up on Wikipedia and showed me, look, just tell me the difference. And he showed me two words, and I am looking and like, there is no difference. They're the same word. And he looks back and is like, no, these two are different. And I look again, I was like, no, they're not. And I look very, very closely, and I realize the letters are backwards. And I didn't even notice. I swear, I was looking at the two words. I didn't notice the letters were backwards. And so he said, yeah, look this up. It's dyslexia. It's something people have. And I'm like, okay. And I started doing research, and I didn't realize that that's why, I was failing all of my literature classes, and anything I had to do, is literally, I didn't understand. I think that's one of the reasons I was a bit better with numbers, because I really couldn't read. So
yeah,
that was painful.
Very cool. So with dyslexia, I don't know much about it. I mean, you can read, right? But it just takes just a very focused effort, and that's what it slows you down, and it frustrates people. So that's where the struggle is.
Correct. Yeah, I couldn't really read at the normal pace of reading until I was I think 25, something like that.
But numbers are fine. Numbers are.
You can have issues with numbers as well. Dyslexia basically means that it's very hard for your brain to compute certain things. And with regards to numbers, for example, if I see a number like 186, I can easily read it 168, right? And it's not because of lack of attention. I literally see the number and my brain perceives something else. And when I write it down, I need to check, 3 times to make sure it's the same number. So
right.
You really don't understand certain things well. And so I've kept having issues. I actually had the pact with my Romanian teacher, because she had this habit of every week or every time we would have a class, she would just open up the catalog of names and she would pick someone randomly. And it was so embarrassing for me to read or to, say poems or whatever, because I was so bad at it. I literally had a pact with her that if she would randomly pick me, she would just give me a 4. Our system is from 1 to 10, right? So she would literally just give me a 4. Every time she would have otherwise, pulled me up and made me speak in class. Because I said, look, there's no reason for you to make me go through that embarrassment. Just, give me a 4. I accept it. And when we'll have a written test, I'm going to get the better grade, right? So my grades were like 9, 4, 10, 4, 8, 4. So it was interesting, but I got through school eventually. So.
Right. Very cool. So you moved to the UK at what age?
Well, I actually was traveling since I was around 16 or 17, and I've traveled to quite a few locations. For example, a weirder one is the middle of Siberia. For example, I've lived there for a while. After that, I went to Mexico for a few years. I've stayed in the US a few years. Or in the US, I haven't really stayed, just, go visit clients and things like that. And then I moved, my last relocation was to the UK, I think 2 years ago.
Okay. And were you building up your company all along, or is this kind of a more recent thing?
No, I started building my company 8 years ago. my first company, and right now I'm at my 10th. So I own 10 right now.
So you own all 10 still. So you didn't sell any of them or
No,
close
I
any
did
of them?
sell one company a while ago, but that's about it. And I might sell more as we go along, but I'm growing their value every year. And we have years, for example, like I think 2 years ago I had a portfolio growth of 284% or 481. I told you I'm very bad with numbers. 481. So 481%. So for every dollar I put in, I would get almost $5 back, right? So it was very good. It was a very good year, and we kept growing. We still grow at least 50% year over year as a portfolio of companies, and it's very nice to see.
So are they all closely related, or is one roofing and another is marketing and another is massages?
Some are related, but most aren't. So I have, Wesrom is my main company where, we render professional services like software development, marketing, consulting, and so on. But then I have another company that is in travel. I have another company in recruitment. I have another company that is within the e-commerce space, helping Shopify e-commerce stores, and so on and so forth. So there are various different, let's say, industries. The relationship is that, I'm either a consultant to help the company. Obviously, I own a majority, or sometimes I bought a minority stake in the company, but where I shine is I can add value as one of the partners in it.
So you mentioned that buying in. So how many of these did you start from scratch, and how many did you buy into?
I started 2 of the 10, and the rest I bought, or I was invited and given shares.
I like that concept.
Yeah, I mean, it works if you find the right founders and the right team and the right products. You say, oh yeah, I'm going to put $100,000 behind that, right? And then it just makes millions after that.
Very nice. So did I gotta assume, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you started 1 or 2 on your own and gained the experience and the expertise, and then that's what made you attractive for someone to invite you in. So what did you start first?
Correct. So I did have a company before Wesrom that I sold right before I started Wesrom. So after that, Wesrom is very geared towards helping other businesses grow. That's what it does basically. It doesn't really matter through what, let's say, through what type of initiatives, because we already have 5 different divisions and around 30 something staff in Wesrom alone, right? So through that one company, I am able to help other companies. So what tends to happen sometimes is that people come to us and say, oh, I want to build this, or I want to grow my company in this way or this other way or whatever. And many times they can't afford, what it is that they actually want to do. And it happens more often than not that, they have an expectation which otherwise would be, $250,000 to develop and market, but they only have, $100,000, right? So what do you do with the other $150,000 that's required? They basically give you shares in the company, or in other instances, for example, one of my companies I own because the founder has gifted 30% of the company. So we've done so good work on marketing that we have quadrupled the company in the first year of us working together, and the founder just gave me 30% of the company. and said, let's keep working together. So now I own 30% of that company, and I just help them. And interestingly enough, now we don't really work. So now Wesrom is not a service provider anymore to that company, because that company scaled itself with internal resources. So there's no necessity to do both anymore. And so it's interesting, that company since has made close to $2 million, right? And I own 30% of that. And so it's very nice to see how these, just evolve and evolve with the right type of leadership and strategy.
Right. So when someone comes to you, because people come to me all the time as well, and, I get the old, this is a $49 quadrillion industry. If we can just get 1/10%, we'll be trillionaires. And you know what? We're going to give you half of it. You just help us market and sell this thing. I mean, I'm like, oh, good grief. How do you decide which ones are good? I mean, I got to imagine people are coming to you, pitching you all the time, right?
Correct. We have at least a few pitches every single week. So on average, we have a few hundred pitches every year of people wanting to do business with us in that manner. The three things I take into consideration, and we do this for others. So we are literally hired to do investment feasibility assessments. So we have people coming to us and paying us money to go and check a company out, or go check a theory out, or whatever, things like that, right? So there are people paying us just to do that, and then we tell them, yes, you should put your money into that company because this is how it might grow, or you shouldn't, but if you do, this is what you need to make sure, right, at least so you get an ROI. So we do that for other people. So they come to us wanting to know whether the investment is good, or whether they should build that product, or render this service, this new thing that they want to do, or whatever. On my end, I have three main things that I look at. Number one, and these are in no order because the people are most important, but I'm going to start in maybe in no particular order. I think that's easier to put it. Number one is the product. Do I like the product that they want to sell or market, and so on and so forth? And do I think it's genius? If I don't think it's a genius product, I'm not going to invest in it, right? It's just not worth it, right? If it's just slightly better than what's already on the market, I can say, well, okay, we can spend 6 months developing this and marketing it and so on and so forth, but it's just going to take your competitor a couple of weeks to add an extra feature on top of what they already have. So what's your USP? We talk about that in sales a lot. What's your unique sales proposition, and what's your differentiation within the market? How will you stand out? So number one is the product. If I don't think the product is genius and it does not really make a dent in how things work, then I don't invest, number one. Number two, I do my own research of the market and see what's actually out there first, right? So you want to see what the competitors are doing, what their pricing is, how does it work, how much did they take to get to the level at which they are, and so on and so forth. And maybe just ask around, potential people that would be buyers. I'd ask, hey, would you buy this? And, oh yeah, that sounds great. Okay, how much would you pay for it? Right? Because if they say, oh, I pay $10 for it, but this guy wants to sell it at 50, I'm like, well, no. Your direct market would pay 10 for it. So,
but if it's genius, so like when the iPhone came out, right? That thing was $600, and I was an Apple fan. I was like, I'm not paying $600, but people did. And then 2 months later, they lowered it to $400, and then I bought it. But people were lining up for it, whereas previous devices, at $600 it was way more. Now it's $1,200 or $1,300 for the highest end. So, but if it's truly genius, how can people determine what they would pay for it?
Well, they determine what they pay for it based on how much value it adds to their life, right? So it'd say, well, I don't know. Let's say I spend money uselessly all day, right, on whatever, or all month. Sometime I keep spending money and I just don't know where it goes. There are already apps Like, for example, let's say the apps that are already on the market that solve this problem wouldn't exist, right? They do, but let me tell you a genius idea. Every ounce of money rounded to a specific number, it would automatically be wired to your investment account or savings account. So for example, if the chai latte you bought in Starbucks is $4.50, you would round that up to the next dollar, like $5. So it would be 50 cents would automatically go to your savings account, right? So, or you can say, oh, I want everything rounded to the next $10. So if you paid $7 for something, the next $3 is going to go towards your investments, and so on and so forth. So if something like that is not already on the market and is genius, right? It's like, oh my God, this is crazy good, right? Oh yes, I love that idea, right? Because you would basically be saving without knowing it, and you wouldn't feel an extra $3 here or half a dollar here or whatever. But out of 100 payments extra, right, you're saving $300 extra every month. Or it depends on who you are. You might be saving, 500 or whatever. But basically, it's a great idea. It's a genius app, and millions of people would use it. And there are already things on the market. So if you don't know about them, you can check them out. But then basically, I would ask someone, how much would you pay for that? And then we would say, well, I mean, I'd probably, I don't know, be able to save an extra $50 a month. So I'd be willing to give them 5, right? Or I'd be willing to give them 10 or 20% of anything I save, or things like that, so, or 5% of anything I save. I don't know. And you would have these conversations. And then that way you determine how much people would pay for it. Now, bear in mind, what people would pay for something and what you would sell it for don't actually have to match, right? You can sell something for more or less than what people expect to pay for it, right? But you should have those conversations, right, as a potential investor.
Yeah.
With your target market. Okay, so that's one, or that's two. And then number 3 is you take a look at the founders. Where are they as business people, right? Where are they? Or do they have a following? Because that's sometimes the case, right? They have 5 million people following them, right, on YouTube or whatever. Or they have very good business knowledge. They've built businesses before. I don't know, but who are the founders, right? How can they get things done, right? So for example, last year, I've invested in 3 companies. 2 of those have already become profitable, right? One of them hasn't. It just is what it is, right? We hoped that the third one would reach profitability by December. It hasn't. It's already April. If it will, then, I'll make my money back. If it won't, then I've lost my money. It is what it is. But the other 2, one of them, the reason why I invested in or the main reason why I invested, I did think the product is genius. I did think that there's room in the market for them and that people would pay the price that they want to charge, and then it's a feasible business model. But the number 3, when the person came to me to ask to work together, they have already worked for, I think, 8 months or a year or something like that on it until then. And they told me everything they've done thus far. They showed me the forecast of how the business is growing. They explained, what it would take to get to the next level. They explained why, and so on and so forth. Everything was so clearly laid out, Wes. It was crazy. I couldn't have done it better myself at that level, right? It was so good. And so when I saw that, I said, I want to invest in you, right? I want to work with you, right? Right now, you might not be a millionaire, but at this rate of development as an individual, you will get there very, very soon, right? So I want to invest in you and your company. So we've done that, and that has, grown every single month since we've invested in it. Every single month it has been growing. So it's very nice to see, those things. But those are the 3 factors I take into consideration.
Right. So when you're negotiating with them, I mean, how does that go? Are you trying to get top dollar, or do you leave some meat on the bone so they don't feel taken advantage of? I mean, how do you know how much to ask for?
How much to ask for from the company.
Yeah. So let's say you want 50%, but it's a great company and you'd be happy with 30%.
Mm-hmm.
Do you drive that hard bargain till you get the 50%, or are you a little more gracious, a little
Mm-hmm.
more just cordial or friendly, if you will, and say let's
Mm-hmm.
just get a deal done and work together.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
I
mean?
tend to be very easygoing with people. What I do is I ask them to give me an offer. Right? I say, okay, give me an offer. Some people have very unrealistic offers, and I realize that. And if they have unrealistic offers, I tend to tell them that we can't work together, right? Because they're so far off of reality. Like, for example, someone wanted, I can't remember, 100 grand of service, and they wanted to give us 2% of the company.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, 2%, 100 grand, that means you're valuing your company at, what is that, 5 million? That doesn't make any sense. Well, it's an idea, it's a concept. You have no idea if it's going to work. How do you
Right.
value it at 5 million? It doesn't ring any bells,
Right.
So what I do is I ask them, tell me, how much I should pay for it and so on. And if they're the type that you mentioned earlier, like, even if we get, 0.1% of the market, you will make, 2 million and so on. I realize then that, look, you're not ready to do this.
Right.
You should go get a job or do another business. You don't understand how this works, right? If you feel that entitled that you say, oh yeah, I will just get 1% or 1/10 of the market because I'm entitled to get 1/10 of the market, right? Or 1% of the market. People will naturally gravitate towards whatever it is I put on the Ethernet, right? They'll just buy it and they'll just be clients and sign up, right? It's just, that's how the world works. Well, no, it does not.
Yeah.
If you do not show me a very clear business model and a business plan that says this is a cost per click is $5 and our conversion rate is $2, that means we need to spend how much? 50, like, let's say $250 for every one conversion, and we make $1,000 for every conversion. Well, okay, that's already a business model I'm listening to. But if your product is worth $20 and your cost per click is $2 and your conversion rate is even 5%, you're building a business that's going bankrupt very fast, because you're spending more on client acquisition. And then they can argue that, oh, well, but you have word of mouth, but you have this, but you have that. No, if you don't show me, if you can make profit in month one after you've launched, I don't believe you have a good business model, right? I just don't believe it. After you've launched, there might be investment required to get you to launch. That's perfectly understandable, right? You need to build something, or you need something, or whatever. We had another person come to us asking for £2 million. In dollars, that's $2.5 million, right? They asked for $2 million because they wanted to renovate a building in the city center of a city here in the United Kingdom to make a modern yoga studio. So that was the plan, because there isn't one in that specific city. So I said, okay, business model makes sense, all of that, blah, blah, blah. Okay, £2 million. I told them I can't wrap my head around that. Why do you need £2 million? Well, because we need to renovate. I'm sorry, but for £2 million, I'm going to build an entire business center from scratch.
Right.
From scratch. I mean, just give me a land. I'll actually buy the land. Just give me £2 million. I'll buy the land and build the entire business center from scratch. So please explain to me, why do you need £2 million to renovate a building that's already built and has no structural problems?
Mm-hmm.
And when I told them that, they literally couldn't answer. Like,
right.
I'm sorry, I don't know. Why do you think you need £2 million? And again, through these discussions, I've already had hundreds of these. Through these discussions, I realize where people are in their maturity as entrepreneurs or as
right.
businessmen or women. And I tell them, look, it's the renovation of a building that has no structural problems. it has 2 floors, right? Let's say you spend $5,000, $10,000 per floor to renovate. So you have the ground floor and 2 extra floors, 15 to 30 grand.
Right.
That's it. Do not tell me it will cost you more than 15 to 30. If you do, give me I'll be your constructor. I will give myself $2 million, right? And you give me what, 80% of your company, because it's definitely not worth more than 2.5 or 3 million. So you give me 80% of the company, and I will single-handedly go there and put the cement myself for $2 million. I mean, what is it going to take? It does not cost that much to renovate the building. So, but these are just some examples, right, that I come across, and I love all of these ideas, right? Because building a modern yoga center and fitness center in a city that one does not exist makes you the first, and the first is always everyone else is a copycat out of those guys because they were first, right? So I always like things like that, and I many times I invest in markets where we're the first to build something.
Right. Is that risky? Because I remember when I was first getting into sales, and I went for an interview with a guy, and it was in the mobile home industry, and they were on this major road in Mobile, Alabama. And as I drove by, there were I don't know, a dozen other mobile home manufacturers on that road, and it concerned me a little bit because I'm like, man, there's too much competition. But when I was talking with the manager, he says that's a good thing, right? If you're a good salesperson and you have a good product, then now there's demand. So people are out and about shopping. When they come to you, you'll win the sale, right? And that's exactly what happened. I turned out to be a good salesman. We had a good product. I made a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So how do you know when it's how do you know when to take the risk, right? To be first versus iterate, like Apple. Apple doesn't invent too many things, right? They just improve what's already out there. So how do you juggle between being the first or focus on being the best?
Mm-hmm. So again, those are all obviously, different aspects that you can tackle. But I tell people that competitive industries are the ones I thrive in most because the demand, again, is already there, as you've mentioned. And so one of my companies, Wesrom, the one that we mentioned, does software development, right? Everyone and their brother-in-law does software development now. You can pretty much find a software developer in any street. If you go on one street, there's high likelihood that one of those people builds software of one form or another, right? This is one of the most competitive industries on the planet. So I tell people I love those industries because when it's so cramped, it's so much easier to stand out with an amazing service or product. It's just so much easier because then the level of entry is so easy. There are a lot of very bad programmers out there, or there are a lot of very bad companies out there that do not know how to manage. Just because there's such high demand for software is the only reason why there are so many software developers. If they weren't, they probably do something else, right? So basically, think of it this way, right? Right now we are in times of COVID, right? Okay, fair enough. Our competitors, most of them, are losing market share. Most of them, because IT budgets is one of the first to go, almost always, right? It's a non-essential expense, right? We're not going to invest in IT support or constant iterations or whatever. So it just goes away. And they are letting people go left and right? You're just firing people left and right. At the same time in which that is a current economical context and reality, 2 weeks ago, we closed $250,000 in new sales, in new business, new project, in 1 week. $250,000 in a single week. Whilst our competitors are just, losing market share, we're literally gaining more of it. Why? Because it's just it makes sense to invest when you have nothing else to do, right? Okay, well, no one's going to our shop. Might as well build an online platform that's stronger, right? that people can use to buy online or whatever it is, right? It's just these type of companies exist. And I tell people, I've been on other webinars and podcasts, and I tell them there's the same amount of money in the market. COVID didn't just eat it up. There's the exact same amount of money in the market right now, and someone is going to use it to buy something, whether that's your project or your service or someone else's. They are going to use that, right? And all of the people that used to go on vacation or go out or do other things, now all of a sudden they have more money. Like, for example, look at it this way. Mobile sales have gone down 30%.
What do you mean mobile devices?
Mobile phones sales have gone down 30% in China and in various other places.
Okay.
So think of it this way. Mobile went down 30%. You would say, oh my God, people aren't buying technology, right? Or they're not buying or whatever. PC sales, right? So workstations and PCs sales have gone up 49% during that same period. And they're just as expensive or more expensive.
Right.
So every company that realizes and can adapt fast to any sort of market trend has big chances to make more money than they were making before. Because if they're good salespeople, as you mentioned, and they have great products, it's just say, oh, well, now IBM can go, or Dell or HP, it doesn't matter, can go to all of those companies and say, look, guys, now all of a sudden from 10,000 employees, 5,000 of them have to work from home. Do all of them have workstations, or should we make you a discount and sell 5,000 PCs in one go to your company that they use from home?
Well, let me throw out, though, kind of devil's advocate. I mean, that's fine in general, but if you are, well, I don't even know if Nokia is still in business, right? But, Android, Samsung,
I own a Nokia.
Whatever, right? Oh, okay, good. So,
love them.
But if Nokia doesn't build desktop or laptop computers, they're down 30%.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So as a marketer or as a consultant, you can shift, and I agree. But sometimes you do, like my friend, I train jiu-jitsu. He's having to pivot. I'm trying to help him, but it's, he's one of the best in the world. And he teaches people in person how to train. We've tried doing some remote stuff, but if you don't have a partner, you can't really train. Yeah. So how do you make that pivot? Because he can't go from being a jiu-jitsu instructor to selling desktops and laptops.
No, but what he can do is help all of their clients with their flexibility, fitness, strength, and so on and so forth, right? So he cannot train the art of pinning someone down because there's no one to pin down, right? You're alone. But at that same time, he can talk to those people, because those people are the same people that tell them, look, it's very hard for me to do, I don't know, weight training because I never have time for it. Or it's hard for me to do flexibility exercises in the morning because I always have to get ready to go to work. My commute is 1 hour, and so on and so forth, right? Those same people now have gained 1 hour at least per day because they're not commuting anymore. So your client can go and say, okay, John, right, now you do not need to commute anymore. Now is the time to get some flexibility. Remember, we've been talking about this for a long while now. Get some flexibility. This will help in your jiu-jitsu, right? So you can always pivot. There's so many things, and we keep helping people do that. All of our clients, we have 20-something clients at any point, right, that we help, pivot and find other things to sell or other ways to sell the same thing. So in his case, jiu-jitsu isn't just the fight. It is the mental state. It is the fitness, is the nutrition. It's all of that goes into being a very good jiu-jitsu fighter, right? Mm-hmm. You cannot be world first at any sport and be, and have a crappy diet. It just doesn't work, right? It's just not, they're not applicable both at the same time. So basically, he can literally sell other things that are adjacent to his main offer. And now is the time to be creative. If anything, now he has more time as a business owner or marketing person, whatever they are. Now is the time to sit down for an hour a day or whatever and think, how can I sell this? Right? How else can I sell this? Or what else can I sell that people are actually willing to buy? Right? And what are the new needs of the market? Right? And so on and so forth. Or another new need of the market might be, for your friend, self-discipline. Right? Self-discipline is something that many people that practice martial arts, that's one of the reasons they go to practice martial arts, is for the self-discipline. So now might be a very good time to build a curriculum around building your self-discipline, your mental and physical self-discipline. What do you do every day? How are you becoming better every day? And he, as a jiu-jitsu professional, one of the best in the world, as you said, he obviously has a ton of that and people respect him for it, right? He has put in tens of years of practice, so he can teach other people to do the same, right?
Very nice. So they sent me some notes here, and this was interesting. So we've been in this COVID thing now for 2 months. Well, Europe was a little bit ahead of the US, so at least 2 months. You've been in this, maybe 3 now. How have you changed marketing? Have you always been heavy into like paid traffic, and how has that changed, or organic, social? Like what are you seeing, and how should people be moving forward, in the rest of 2020 at least?
So people should, it depends on what market you are in and what you sell, obviously, right? There are B2B strategies, B2C strategies, B2B2C. You really need to know your market and how and where they are and how they would listen to you. But for example, something that got canceled on my end is I was invited as a main stage speaker at the Northern Business Exhibition, which is the largest business exhibition in the northern part of the United Kingdom. There had like 6,000 something participants. Yep. So that was a huge lead funnel for us. And I was invited, with benefits and so on and so forth, to be there, right? Other people pay for booths, other people pay to speak, and so on and so forth. We are the type that we are being paid to go to these conferences. So great opportunity to get a lot of leads and so on and so forth. And I highly recommend the conference itself. A lot of people join. If you have listeners in the UK, it's a great place to be. In Manchester once a year. But basically, it got canceled. It is what it is, right? Everything went well. We had the banners, we had everything lined up, we were ready to go. Last minute, 1 week before, it all got canceled. 6,000 people, they're not going to risk, that. And so you can't do that, right? So that's obviously, it doesn't work. So on our end, some things that work are direct outreach to people, right? You can reach out directly to your target audience, whether that's through phone, through text messages, through email, through LinkedIn, through Facebook, through whatever it is, wherever your target market is, right? Because again, I'm being a bit general because we haven't agreed on one specific thing. But for example, your jiu-jitsu coach can easily do PPC on Facebook. Right, he could do that. I do recommend PPC because bids are cheaper now. People, sure. There's not that many people bidding because everyone stopped their marketing budget, which is one of the stupidest things you can do, right? Because if you're already in a rut, having even less clients or even less leads will not help you at all, right? So basically, what is helpful is to change what you sell from changing things that are immediate to selling plans or advice or educational materials or things of that nature, because people can use this time to reflect, right? So for example, someone can say, oh, I don't want to, I'm obviously not going to do jujitsu now, so your jujitsu client will not want to do PPC or whatever around that because no one will want to buy it. However, there are two different things he can do. One, he can have delayed payments and service. So he can say, for during COVID, so during all of the month of May, I give 1 month of training at half price to anyone that signs up now and commits to it until until the end of May. And you can start until September, right? The first month can be September or after, that doesn't matter. But basically, he is getting commitments from people at 50% off, right? So he keeps getting those commitments, or he has 20% commitment and then an extra 40% once they actually start working. But then the final 40% they never pay anymore, right? Because it's 40% off. So they pay 20 now as a commitment to them starting jiu-jitsu once, possible. So in the next few months or whatever. And then once they actually start, then they pay the other 40%. But that's it. So they get the same service at 40% off or 50 or whatever he wants to do. So he can get clients that way. So that's one. Number two, there are many people that would love to learn jiu-jitsu, myself included, but never have the time to do research on it. Who should I work with? What should I do? And so on and so forth. So the people that are normally interested in it now have even more time to stay on YouTube, right? Now they have even more time to do research. So if anyone has likes on Facebook, they like jiu-jitsu people or pages or whatever, now is the time to do PPC for them and educate them and bring them into your mailing list, right? Because it's much cheaper. Now the cost per click, the cost per conversion now is much cheaper. So you can sell subscriptions to your mailing list much cheaper. So he can get, during the month of May, 1,000 new people on his mailing list for peanuts. But otherwise, it would cost him several thousands of dollars to do that. Now he can get it for hundreds of bucks, right? Because it's so cheap. No one's doing ads.
Yes, but the problem that everybody faces is people start canceling, right? So on the one hand, like acquiring leads is less expensive, but at the same time, you're losing revenue. How do you balance the two? How do you know when to just hunker down, hang on, cut costs, and just get through it versus like lean into it and try to grow even in the chaotic times?
So number one, the best thing you can do, and I tell people, there are, strategists and there are tacticians. Most people operate as tacticians. Most people, read an article about SEO and then try to do SEO. And they do it poorly or very poorly, and they get no results, and they say SEO is crap, it doesn't work. No, you've not done it well. That's why it didn't work for you. But basically, you can be a tactician, as in, do things as and when, and, just try to do things that you think are good, or you can be a strategist. And the main difference between a tactician and a strategist is, in the long run, the strategist always wins. Right? The best strategy wins the war, always. It doesn't matter if you lose a specific battle or not, right? The best strategy always wins the war. And obviously you have luck and other things, that have to do with it. But strategy is the thing you can control, right? It's within your circle of influence. You can control it. So basically, the moment you have that, you think, okay, because of COVID and because we will not be able to meet, people will start canceling. You don't need to be Einstein to figure that out. So the strategist thinks ahead. The tactician just says, hopefully they won't cancel, and if they do, I'll figure it out then. The strategist says, there's an 80% chance everyone's going to cancel because I can't meet with them anymore, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to postpone all of their payments. Anyone that sticks with me, right? Or I'm going to postpone half of their payments. Anyone that sticks with me during this time and pays half of how much they would normally pay me gets 1 free month after that, right? Basically. So let's say you would normally pay me $1,000 a month to work with you, right? But we cannot meet in person. And my part of my value is that we meet in person. And you pay me $1,000 a month. If in case we cannot meet, right? In case COVID happens and we cannot meet, I commit to give you 50% off for that month, and then 50% off the month in which we actually restart working together, right? And so basically you pay just that amount. You pay less now, 50% less, so you don't need to cancel, because that's why people are canceling. They don't want the expense. But if you just give me 50% now, and then you can pay me 50% on the month, full normal month at which you would pay normal costs, right? Or things of that nature. That's just one example. Obviously, if you sit down with the client and you come up with multiple things and you say, what would people actually go for? And you come up with all of these things to be proactive, basically, and be the strategist, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I've told everybody too, is, now's the time to go get market share. Mm-hmm. Get after it. And I'm not a big fan of discounting, but it's like right now you got a discount. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about it. People won't expect it forever. Stay in business, and there are some schools that are closing that I've seen, and, it's sad, but it is what it is. So get out there and go get new business.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. This is, we've gone on for a while here. Where should we send folks, like people listening? How do they know if they might benefit from what you do? Are they business owners? Are they big companies? Are they solo consultants? All the above?
Mm-hmm. What we care about most is people or companies that are making the world a better place. So ethical companies or ethical people, right? We are famous and historically we have turned people down because we did not believe in their business ethics. We just don't deal with that. So if you're making the world a better place, and that can be even in the simplest form of, we have ethical business practices and we're providing jobs for people, right? We take good care of people, we pay them well, and so on and so forth. So if we say that you're really making the world a better place, then we'll help you. If you're in an industry that by default shouldn't exist, like, for example, tobacco shouldn't exist, by my opinion, and I can clearly say it, right? I do not mean to be offensive to anyone, but I can tell you that if smoking would not exist, people might be healthier. I don't know, they might find another vice. I'm just saying that if the companies that push those vices wouldn't exist, we might have a healthier place, right? So if you have that type of a company, don't even reach out, please. I'm not going to work with you, and we will not work with you. If you have an ethical company, you have ethical practices, you provide quality service, and so on and so forth, go to Wesrom.com, or products, ethical products, or whatever. Go to Wesrom.com, see what we do. There's high chances in which we can, be of service to you somehow. If you have a question for me and you want to reach out directly, you can find me on robert@wesrom.com. So just email me directly, and I promise to reply. And anyone coming from your podcast, Wes, has 10% off anything they buy from us, the first contract.
Nice. Very cool. Well, we are linking to that. It's just like my name, Wes, WESROM.com. So I'm linking to that there, and your Twitter account I'm linking to, and cool, man. Okay. I appreciate you taking the time. It's almost happy hour for you now, right?
Correct.
Well, we're in quarantine. Every hour is happy hour.
Yes, it is.
All right. Very nice. Robert, thanks for coming to the show, man. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. You as well.
There are so many cool people in this world with so many cool stories. And that, I have to say, is the number one thrill, I guess, benefit, pleasure of doing this podcast so many years. I get to speak with cool people and ask them the questions that I have. Hearing his story, we didn't plan on going down the rabbit hole of dyslexia, and but I was curious. There's a lot of people that deal with things that they may or may not even know they have. So I hope that helps you. If you're grappling with something you can't figure out, maybe it opens your eyes to some new things. Just ask better questions, right, to see what's going on. And hopefully that helps. I love the things that he's overcome, but the way he's growing. I mean, man, I see these things and I get insights. I've already had new conversations with people on changes I'm making in my own business. You're either growing or you're dying. And, look at IBM. I mean, man, in the 80s when I got my first computer, it was always, well, is it IBM compatible? And now, it's been years. IBM is not even in the PC business, right? They sold to Lenovo in China. So it's okay to pivot, words overused, but you get my point. Change when you need to change. And, the economy and COVID and riots and whatever else, you can't sit still. Okay, so figure out the changes you need to make, the mergers, the acquisitions, the things you need to spin off and close, shut down, whatever. Figure it out, okay? Make the changes, bring on the right people, delegate, like I talked about at the top of the show. It's the secret to life, secret to business, secret to happiness. But you know what? If you do all this, you don't have your health, what good is it? So check it out, please, thesaleswhisperer.com/fitness. Get you some good stuff. Fuel the body. Let me know what you get. Let me know what kind of results you have. Because, I talked about this last show. I've been lifting weights since I was a freshman in high school. I keep saying this, 1984. Maybe it was spring semester, early 85. So been a long time. Shoving things down my throat because I'm hungry, trying to recover, trying to build. So I've tried a lot of stuff, and this is some good stuff. And the weights and the kettlebells, all kind of good stuff. So get it. Let me know. And then hit me up. Hit me up in my group, theimplementors.com. It's a free group on Facebook. You can ask more questions from the podcast, whatever else you're working on. If you need some one-on-one, you could just go to thesaleswhisper.com and hit the Talk with Wes button. You can find a time on my schedule. And I will help you grow. I guarantee. All right. Thanks for listening. I'll go sell something.